Oh, Jesus, boys, girls, in-betweeners, it is patch night, and I am cranking out this video way past my bedtime because I got home from work and had to download the patch and it took forever. But I do this for you, for the people. So you can get my thoughts and opinions on the Season 5 patch for Juri here, and this sexy new outfit. I like the midriff she shows off when she walks around. That said, we can talk about that later. Let's talk about the patch notes. Now, a detailed version, initially they released like a very vague version of the patch notes, and then if you went to the CFN website, basically you got access to the much more detailed version of the patch notes for each character. So we do have that. I'm going to rattle these off now and just go through them with you as we go. And then I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on them afterwards. So, Vitality increased from 900 to 975. This is a global change, which has happened for all characters. I would guess it's to try and bring Street Fighter V more in line with Street Fighter 4, in the sense that Street Fighter 4 matches tend to last for longer and tended to be more back and forth, whereas Street Fighter V, once someone gets momentum, they can be over very quickly, which there's a delicate balance there, because that is part of what makes Street Fighter V, in my opinion, a more fun game. Not a better game, but a more fun game than Street Fighter 4. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because obviously if you shift scales too far in one direction, you get the Street Fighter Cross Tekken situation where every match ended in a timeout. So it's not a big shift, it's only 25 health for each character, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of impact that has in the game. By the same token, stuns increased from 950 to 1,000. Now, like I said, not global change, happens for everyone. I would guess it's this feels like back in Season 3, I think it was, when they added the global nerf to crush counter damage, that rather than balance out the characters who were just robbery characters with crush counter setups and whatnot, they just went, fuck it, we'll just nerf crush counters across the board, that'll solve the problem. This feels like the same thing here, where you have your robbery characters like Abigail, Karin, Laura, Armika, whatever. Characters who build stun very fast. My guess is that rather than try to go into the minutiae of balancing those characters out and toning down those robbery aspects, they're just throwing their hands in the air and going, fuck it, everyone has more stun. So, I mean, it's not really going to affect Juri very much, because honestly, if you let Juri stun you, you're probably playing wrong anyway. It's probably more your fault than it is hers for actually being able to stun you, because you should never have let it happen in the first place, because it's so hard to do. So that's not going to be a big factor. Stun for Juri comes around very infrequently, so I'm not really too fussed about that. It probably helps Juri more than it hinders her, so that's okay, for me at least. If you play a robbery character, you might be a bit more upset about that. Alright, Sekken Hyaku, which is our overhead. Disadvantage on block increased from -6 to -7 frames. Again, this appears to be a global change. I haven't checked everyone's notes, but from the ones that I have, everyone who does not have a command normal overhead, well, basically like an overhead move. So there's some characters like Kuma who have 2 overheads, and obviously those are going to function differently. But for most characters with their regular command normal overhead, it's the universal minus frames have gone from 6 to 7 frames. Now that really makes, I mean, again, this doesn't necessarily hinder Juri that much, because her overhead hits from so far away. It's a little bit trickier to punish, because you hit from downtown with this fucking thing, which is the only thing it ever had going for it, because it had the -6, the same as everyone else did, but it was also 0 on hit, so you weren't even an advantage when you used it and actually hit them with it. But that said, this nerf probably won't hurt her as badly as it will other characters, because most of the characters have to be a lot closer than Juri does to actually have to use her overhead. So that said, it still does shift the risk-reward proposition against her, along with every other character, because at -7 frames, you can be punished by just about anything. You can be punished by a Fierce at that point. So it's a real, like, if you're gonna throw an overhead, you better be damn sure it's gonna hit, or they can't punish it, because that's gone from being kind of punishable to just being very punishable. So we'll see how that goes. Change the airborne status from -16 to 21 to being grounded and throw invincible. This is a buff. So basically the way this worked is that it was Even though it appears to be pretty much airborne for the entire animation, Juri has this problem with a lot of her moves, where they appear to be airborne, but they're actually not. They actually have grounded hitboxes. So, in the case of her overhead, she can be thrown out of this very easily, because she was only airborne from the 16th to the 25th frame. So at the very end of it, she was actually being classified as being airborne. They've now changed it to just being a grounded move, which is pretty much what it was for the most part anyway, but it is now throw invincible, which means it doesn't matter if it's airborne or not. You can't throw it. So that's actually a minor buff, because now she can use this in throw range. Again, you know, there's that risk-reward proposition with the -6 to -7, but if they go for throw, you can't throw out of this anymore. So that's nice if you want to take that risk of eating a full punish for an overhead, which you're not at advantage on hit. So it's a very minor buff. In the context of buffs, it is extremely minor, but a buff is a buff. We'll take what we can get. Meme Heavy Tensinran. Expand the forward hitbox for active frames from 2 frames from the first hit. So one of the problems with Tensinran is that it is easy to whiff the earlier frames, especially when you're fighting characters who have downward-facing airborne attacks. So you'll sometimes be in situations where you either hit them with like the remaining hits, so you only hit them like 1 or 2 times with this and don't get full damage, or worse still, you just whiff completely, which is a real pain. So they've increased the hitbox, the forward hitbox on this, so that it has presumably a better chance of catching people when they're in the air. Doesn't fix the problems with the flickering hitbox. We'll get to that in a second, but it has a slightly better chance now of catching people in the air. So again, very, very, very minor buff, but we'll take what we can get. Okay, Meme Heavy Tensinran. I don't know if that was it. Well, that's kind of it then, basically. Well, yeah. I thought there was something else there. There isn't. So yeah, it doesn't fix the flickering hitbox frames, so, you know, fuck you, Capcom. You dick. Furinkaku Charge. Expand the forward hitbox when performed as a cancel from standing or crouching light punch. I was playing with this earlier, and you can get that on hit. You cannot get it on block. So timing's a little bit wonky. That wasn't a combo. I've only had about an hour to play with this patch, so if I appear a little bit inconsistent, you'll have to forgive me. There we go, 3 hits. So you can jab and get a store, but if Ryu is blocking, which is what I was practicing along, because that's more practical in my opinion, it's going to whiff no matter what. So it only works as a hit confirm. If you're trying to hit confirm this from jabs, it only works on hit, not on block. So again, I mean, very minor buff. If you even want to call it that. Calling it a buff is charitable, but I mean, it's not enough, so there you go. Alright, Furinkaku. Normal / V trigger all strengths. When cancelling from Furinkaku into Furinkaku of other strengths, change to give input timing and command priority. I assume people felt, or Capcom felt, there was an issue with command overlap there. The only command overlap I ever get is negative edge when I'm trying to do a crouching meme into a different store, and I get crouching meme into meme store instead. Let's try. I haven't even tried this. Let's see if we can get it off negative edge now. Yeah, you can still get it off negative edge, so fuck if I know. So it's that doesn't even seem like a buff. That seems just like just a clarification and execution there. Meme Furinkaku, reduce the pushback on hit. Wasn't really an issue because she already moves forward when she does this. I have seen people on Twitter doing some swanky new combos, but if people are crouching, and Juri has combos which only work on people when they're crouching, so I'd assume it's something to do with that. If not, please feel free to clarify in the comments, but otherwise seems like, again, doesn't even feel like a buff, just feels like a clarification of execution bullshit. Moving on. EX Furinkaku. The first and second hits have been changed to stagger damage. The second hit can now be cancelled into V-Trigger. This is a little bit more interesting. We'll have to look at like the application of this. Essentially what happens is that in previous patches, you could definitely cancel EX-FUA in a V-Trigger, but it was only on the last hit. You could mash it as hard as you wanted, and believe me, I did. You could mash it as hard as you wanted, and it would never cancel before the last hit. Now, it cancels on second hit. Now, that's interesting because if we take our friend Ryu off guard and restart things. Normally, when you do this, and it activates on the fourth hit, you get a knockdown. And there's nothing you can do. You get Oki, which is nice, but that's it. Whereas now, if you activate off the second hit, he's still standing, so you can follow up. So that doesn't really help you very much if you're using V-Trigger 1. Because if you're using V-Trigger 1, you probably want to get the knockdown and get the Yoki if that hits. Although, what I will say is that when you activate on the last hit, it's 0 frame advantage. So it's neutral frame advantage, both people are at 0. I'll turn on attack data so you can see that. Zero advantage. If you activate on the second hit now instead, and reset the battle. Oh, hang on, we gotta actually guard this properly. My bad. You're a +3. So that is more advantageous on block. If you're like me, and you go for the crouch medium into release activation, so you go bang, bang. Oh, come on, Juri, what with me? Like that, you are actually at advantage when you activate on block. So that's interesting. There's some decision making to be made there. It's a nice alternative. It basically means that when you go for activation and you don't have stocks, you can still be at advantage like if you did use a stock to get activation. So you basically have a choice to make whether you want to go for, if they block and you can react fast enough, you can activate off the second hit instead of the fourth hit. So, and if it hits, you can choose whether you want to activate on the second hit or whether you want to get knocked down and go for the fourth hit. Now that said, if you are one of those crazy bastards who insists that V-Trigger 2 is actually usable, and you're wrong, but if you think that it is, going for activation off of the second hit is probably more advantageous for you, because you only get one chance to get damage off the V-Trigger activation, and so you'll take what you can get because you're a filthy little whore. So that it definitely helps V-Trigger 2 much more than it does V-Trigger 1, but we'll get to V-Trigger 2 in a bit. Alright, Kaisen Ryaku. I've never tried to pronounce this before. Kaisen Renkyaku. There we go. That's a V reversal. Increase the active frames from 1 frame to 2 frame. Reduce the recovery from 28 frames to 24 frames. Note changes to the advantage. There's no changes to advantage or disadvantage on block. Increases the block stop. I don't even know what increased block stop is. I've never heard the term block stop before. That said, the recovery frames is only going to affect you if someone like Akuma baits your V reversal, then uses his V skill to tank the V reversal. And even if he does that, I don't know whether it'll stop him from hitting you or not. I hope that it would, because I had Kumas do that to me before, and it sucks. But I have not had a chance to test that yet. That said, this looks like an incredibly minor change, so I'm not even calling this a buff. This is just a quality of life increase, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, almost there. Feng Shui Engine Alpha, V-Trigger 1. If the V-Trigger runs out while performing a chain combo, Juri will be able to perform a normal Furinkaku by using a stock if she has it. So basically what that means is that I would have to go and check the tapes on this one, so I don't remember whether it is the case or not. But what they're saying is that if your V-Trigger timer runs out while you're performing a chain combo, you do not have to end the chain combo right there and then. You can use stocks that you have if V-Trigger has run out. So that would presuppose that from yesterday onwards, going backwards I guess, that if you did chain and tried to use a fireball, it would not work in that chain, basically. So again, quality of life improvements, I wouldn't even call these buffs. Feng Shui Engine Beta V-Trigger 2. 1. Increase the active frames for the first hit at the legs from 2 frames to 5 frames. 2. Expand the range at which you can absorb EX meter. Let's have a look at that. I haven't actually looked at that, so let's have a look at that. Oh, did I put the wrong thing? Okay, just gonna do that. All right. Oh boy, if that's a increase, that is incredibly minor. Okay, that's where it is, because the animation hasn't changed, but the hitbox has. Because before, like, you had to get a bit further deeper in before it would actually register. Whereas now, like, if the very edge of it touches him, it's actually absorbing it. So, I mean, it's minor, but that is a buff. If you do like the V-Trigger, it actually reflects the fucking animation now, instead of not doing that. So that's nice. Change to the activation attack will not consume V-Timer. What does that mean? Let's have a look. Turn off guard. Some of these I didn't even test this stuff because I don't care about V-Trigger 2. But let's see. Well, that's certainly... the meter fucking went down, so I don't know what they're talking about. Change of the activation attack that will not consume V-Timer. Are you high, Capcom? Well, it's still going down the very second it actually hits, so I don't know what they're talking about. And I don't care, because this V-Trigger sucks. Note, has been changed so that the V-Timer will begin to decrease immediately after activation, but there are no changes to the amount of EX meter that... Then what does it mean if you say that it's going to be decreased immediately after activation? What does it mean when you say that the activation attack does not consume V-Timer? Unless it's like a cancel thing? I don't care. Short answer is I don't care. It sucks, don't use it. The end. Lastly, Sekai Furazan, which is Furazan, which is a critical art. Change the amount of EX meter gain so the opponent gets from on block, so they get less. I didn't even know there's a mathematical equation here, and I suck at maths. It's also late and I'm tired. That's the end of the changes. What do I think? I think they suck. I said it before. I said it in Season 3. I said it in Season 4. I said that they are happy with where Juri is. She is functioning as intended. And we will receive only token changes in Season 5. And that's exactly what we've gotten. There is no change here in terms of buffs or nerfs, which is the slightest bit meaningful. That's the hard truth of it. There are some very small quality of life improvements. You can argue that the increase of stun and vitality will help her a little bit. Probably will. But for the most part, there is nothing here that is even the slightest bit useful as a buff. Maybe her Tincenter will be a little bit more effective as an anti-air. Don't know, have to test that more thoroughly. Regarding hitbox wonkiness on that one. But like I said, aside from that, there's really nothing here which I'm seeing as even the slightest bit fucking useful. You know, like, okay, yes, you can cancel now on EX. You can cancel EX Fua into V-Trigger activation and be plus on block. That's nice. It's only +3, so it's not like huge. I mean, you can do a regular heavy fireball, cancel that and be +6. The expending meter would be +3. Or you can do EX Roiden Satsu and be +8. So it's still not that big of a buff. So yeah, this really hurts. This is, I mean, it hurts, but it's not unexpected. It just makes me sad more than anything else, because it's clear that Capcom just don't give a fuck about Juri at this point. They're like, no, like season 3, we got this chick down. Ever since season 3, we have not, like, we season 3.5, we wound back the buffs to season 3, and that's it. We're good. Ever since season 3.5, I should say, they've just been absolutely happy with where Juri is, and have only been giving her the most token, tiny bullshit changes that they can, and to try and shut people up, and it hurts. That's really the truth of it. Now, it is not all doom and gloom, because you're probably thinking to yourself, Red, you forgot about one thing. You forgot about V-Skill 2. And I have not forgotten about V-Skill 2. I'm going to make a separate video right after this about V-Skill 2, because V-Skill 2 is the one shining light in terms of how his character functions. I don't really classify it as a buff per se, because everyone gets a V-Trigger 2, or V-Skill 2 rather. So it's just a change to a character that everyone else has gotten as well. But V-Skill 2 does look like it has some useful application. Now, initially when I talked about V-Skill 2, I was like, oh, this thing's going to have to be plus on block to be useful. It's not plus on block, it's -2, which is what we expected. I said that I'd like it to be plus on block, obviously, but I expected it to be -2, and it is. So if we put him on guard all, -2. So if you just throw it out willy-nilly, it is pretty worthless. You can get 2 stocks behind it if you want to get stocks. So you can use it as a very quick shield for getting buffs, for getting stores, I should say. So, but you're trading one store for another, basically. So it's not really that useful. Unless you're desperate to get fireball stores, it's not really that useful as like a shield or anything. But I've been messing around for it, for, as I said, for about an hour, and I've found a fun little, actual, genuine mix-up with it. And it's not the garbage crush counter sweep one that they showed you in the video, thank God. So this is all day one stuff, and like I said, there is going to be another video, so check that on the channel. I might even look, if I'm feeling generous, I may even throw a link into this video as well. But that said, I'm going to leave this here because I've waffled on long enough. TLDR, very disappointed with the season changes, but they're not unacceptable. Not unexpected. I'm losing my ability to speak because I'm tired. Not unexpected changes. So feel free to leave comments below. Let me know if you think that I'm wrong. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you like the midriff that's being shown off in this costume. It's kind of good. And in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later. Check out the V-Skill 2 video. It's going to be coming up at the same time as this video goes live. So it'll be there. Check it out. And I will see you guys very soon.